What's up guys, Artem MMA Analysis here, going to be covering Bellator 277 McKee versus Pitbull 2, and I'm a lot more educated on these fighters than I was the first time that I made the video, because as you guys know, I like to do early predictions and then I like to look at the card in depth in my own time and then do my full card breakdown after. So what you're watching right now is my full card breakdown. These are my final picks and these are the picks that I'm going to put my name behind. And as always, it kind of seems with the Bellator cards these days, the prelims are really like not the highest level whatsoever, but the main card is really good. We do have some great fighters on the main card, but there really is only like 5 fights worth of watching on this card, not gonna lie. Like, no disrespect to these guys, but man, like a lot of them are making their debuts on the Bellator card. So I mean, huge card, massive main event, massive co-main event, massive featured fight, even Edwin stepping in on short notice, but thought I'd get that out there. Can't wait to watch this fight. Let's just get straight into it there. And so the first fight of the night is Theo Haig versus Benson, and this is a head scratcher to me, man. Theo Haig sitting minus 550 favorite, and he hasn't fought for 2 years. That one amateur fight that he does have a win was against another debuting amateur fighter 2 years ago. Benson is 1-2, but he went like 1-4 as an amateur. So this guy really isn't the kind of guy that's out here getting wins, if that makes sense. Like, he was losing to guys with losing records on the amateur scene, and then he's been losing to a couple of debuting guys. He's fought in Bellator before, I guess, so he's kind of used to the lights. I guess you could say, like, the bright lights of the crowd and all that. But Theo Haig, we don't even know his age, we don't even know his height or reach or what gym he trains out of. But he managed to get a Bellator placement, so good for him. I will be picking Theo Haig to win inside the distance, because Benson seems to get finished a lot, but it's just so hard to kind of make a pick on a debuting guy that hasn't fought for 2 years. You don't even know how old this guy is, you don't even know his height or his reach. I'm going to be picking Theo Haig. He does have his one win by a submission. He does seem to like have pretty good stand-up. For Benson, he kind of seems to have he doesn't excel anywhere. He's not great at striking but bad at wrestling. He's not great at wrestling but bad at striking. He's kind of just like not too great kind of everywhere. I'm going to be picking Theo Haig to get the win in his debut. You cannot be confident picking or beating this fight though. Alright, we've got another one, man. We've got another very suspect prelim, and we've got Laird Anderson versus JT Donaldson. I'm going to be picking Laird Anderson by submission on this one here. But there's one thing that we've got to kind of mention. This guy has not fought for 3.5 years. He's almost 24 years old and he hasn't fought for 3.5 years. I guess like that means because he's so young, he would have been making like a lot of improvement. But JT Donaldson, man, he's 4-5. At one point he was 2-5. His last 2 wins by a KO over a debuting guy and a win over a 3-3 guy. Before that, he got knocked out. He got submitted, and then like a technical eye poke, I guess 5 years ago. Like, I don't know if Laird Anderson is going to find too much problems in this one. Also, JT Donaldson going to have to drop down to 145 pounds for this one. One thing about Laird Anderson's record, he didn't have a bad amateur record. He went 3-0 as an amateur before he fought Ricky Abdelaziz, and he won by split decision in Bellator 206. Ricky Abdelaziz has fought once since then, and he did win. But as for like what I like to see with Laird Anderson is he's training jiu-jitsu. He's been to the combat jiu-jitsu world championships, and he's won a couple of those sort of fights, I guess you could say, or those like exhibition matches or whatever they would be called. But as for JT Donaldson, he's just kind of like there. He went 2-2 as an amateur, became a pro. He did lose to AJ McKee Jr. when Bellator was trying to pad his record, so maybe out of like thank you to JT Donaldson, they put him on the card. But I think Laird Anderson, he's also got a very good boxing. He seems to be good at boxing, he seems to be good at striking, and he seems to have great jiu-jitsu obviously as well. I will be picking Laird Anderson to win by a submission in this one here, but like minus 500 for a guy that hasn't fought for 3.5 years. It's difficult, man, but definitely Laird Anderson is a pretty confident pick for me here. Okay, so I don't really know about this next fight. We've got Socrates Hernandez versus Rogelio Luna. I'm going to be going with the favourite, Rogelio Luna, because he's making his debut. Socrates Hernandez is 0-1, like in pro, but he did fight in Bellator against Bobby Seronio III, who I thought was fighting on this card, but he is fighting on this card, sorry. And you know what, like I'm going to be picking Rogelio Luna. He is coming off his first loss of his career as an amateur, but prior to that though, he was beating pretty good guys. Well, he fought like 1 or 2 good guys on the amateur scene, 4-0 and 5-1. He did lose by decision to this guy who was 5-1, but he decided, you know what, I'm gonna become a pro anyway and fight for Bellator. So good for him, really. And like, you know what, like, I'm gonna be picking Rogelio Luna to win by a decision here. Socrates Hernandez, he made it 3 rounds with Bobby Seronio. I don't really see Rogelio Luna getting a finish in this one here. He does actually have decent power, Luna. I think he does have more power on the hands than Socrates does. But like, once again, it's like a pick that I don't really want to like make, you know, like, it's just so difficult to be predicting these unknown guys. But 145 pounds is where the fight is. Rogelio Luna will probably have to cut a little bit of weight because he last weighed at 155. I'm picking Luna, so is everyone else, it seems. I don't really know if it's because they've got confidence in him or just because everyone else has picked him, but I'm going with Rogelio Luna as well. Alright, this next one we're going with Edwin de los Santos to beat Alberto Mendez. 2 guys that are actually undefeated, I guess, in their career. Alberto Mendez 0-0 with 1 no contest in his professional record, but he went undefeated as an amateur. Edwin de los Santos also went undefeated as an amateur, and he actually showed pretty decent striking against John Adams. He's got a Muay Thai background, like he's got that 1 Muay Thai loss on his professional career, I guess, which he got last year. Alberto Mendez, he fought a few months ago in 2021, about 6 months ago, after taking about a 2-year layoff and got no contest against Guntumer, I guess. And yeah, like, that's kind of all I really have to say. Is I think Edwin de los Santos is going to have the great striking advantage here. He's weighing in at 125 pounds. Alberto Mendez is weighing about 121 pounds, so he's probably going to be a little bit bigger than Alberto as well in there. Edwin de los Santos, the Muay Thai background, I think that he's already shown that he does have great power, where he did win by a liver kick against John Adams. I think that we're going to see him win again over Alberto Mendez, and I think that we're going to see another knockout. I'm going to be going with de los Santos, and I'm going to be going with de los Santos by knockout in this fight here. I think we're going to be seeing another fight ending, well, we're just going to be seeing another knockout, I guess, on the dos Santos side. Alright, this next one, we've got another, I guess, like, low-level fight. We've got Tyson Miller versus Rhalan Gracie. Tyson Miller, man, he was meant to fight someone else. He was meant to fight McKee, who most recently beat Rhalan Gracie, but Rhalan Gracie has come in. He's decided to step up on, I'm assuming, short notice here, because as you can see, the belts were scheduled for the same time. So Rhalan Gracie is McKee's I mean, obvious, like, replacement, I guess you would say. That, like, Tyson Miller, man, like, he's got a pretty good-ish amateur record. He went 3-1, but he actually lost before signing to Bellator. He beat Albert Gonzalez in his debut by like a league kick, and then he beat Luis Conde Navarro. Rhalan Gracie, kind of as you guys would assume, has great jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's actually quite well known as a Gracie, to be fair, but it's great to see this fight for Bellator. But really, kind of all he does have is that jiu-jitsu game, and to utilize that jiu-jitsu game, he needs to get the fight to the mat. And I'm expecting Tyson Miller to be, like, able enough to keep the fight on the feet. I'm expecting him to be big enough to like, or like, you guys know what I mean. Like, I'm expecting him to, like, be able to defend the takedowns of Rhalan Gracie. I don't think he wants to be on the ground with the Rhalan. I will be picking Miller to win the fight by keeping the fight on the feet and just outstriking Rhalan. But man, like, it's a weird sort of fight. Like, Rhalan Gracie 0-3, but he's still, like, you guys know, like, he's gonna have great jiu-jitsu if the fight ever gets to the ground, and hopefully Tyson Miller doesn't decide to take the fight to the ground, because we could see a pretty live dog in Rhalan Gracie in this one here, like, low-key, but we're picking Tyson Miller. Alright, we've got another one. We've got another Bellator prelim, guys. How excited are you for this? Bobby Seronio III versus Calob Ramirez. I believe a set-up fight for Bobby Seronio III to get another win on his record. He does have a great wrestling, he does have a great ground game, but I will be picking him to win by probably like a ground and pound TKO over Calob Ramirez within the first couple of rounds. Calob Ramirez is very experienced. If you look at his record, he went 8-8 as an amateur, which I guess is kind of cool. He did actually submit a guy that was 13-0 as an amateur in Chris Reyes, who's now gone on to be 4-1 in his professional career. But anyway, moving on from that, Calob Ramirez, I mean, like, he's a lot older than Bobby Seronio III. You can tell the UFC Bellator are kind of like trying to build up Bobby Seronio III with this one here, and I'm just going to be trusting that Bobby Seronio III is as good as what I think he is. He's going to take down Calob Ramirez. He's going to look to ground and pound. He's going to look for submissions. A lot of people are picking Seronio by submission here. but he doesn't have a submission win on his record yet. Potentially this could be the first, but I'm going to be kind of riding the Seronio the third by like a ground and pound TKO. In fact, maybe like he is ground and pounding him out. He almost gets the finish, and then Calob gives away his back, and then we get a submission. So maybe I could look stupid, but I'm just going to be going Bobby Seronio the third by a finish here. I think we do see like a ground and pound TKO for Bobby Seronio in this one here. Okay, this next fight, we've got a real fight, man. We've got a real Bellator level fight now. We've got Crutchmer versus Michael Lombardo, sorry. I don't know why I said his name so strangely, but Crutchmer, very big, like, height disadvantage, and a reach disadvantage as well, but that's because he's, like, built up a little bit. He's got that wrestling base, and he will be looking to wrestle with Michael Lombardo. Michael Lombardo, though, I guess you could kind of say, like, he's got a better striking game than Crutchmer, and he probably does have a good enough striking game to be able to utilize that height and reach advantage that he does have. But I do just think that Crutchmer is going to be able to get those takedowns, and I do think he's going to be able to kind of utilize the takedowns, the control time, the ground and pounds over Michael Lombardo to get the win. Crutchmer, he did lose to Kimran Lachinov by decision, which, I mean, didn't age the greatest when the Ultimate Fighter come around and they picked Kimran Lachinov last. But prior to that, though, he has been like winning like a lot of decisions. He's definitely more of a decision fighter. He does have a pretty good choke, Anaconda choke over Scott Fitzgerald, which was in 2020, so good for him. But Michael Lombardo, he fought for Dana White's Contender Series twice. He lost the first time to Kyle Dalkaus. He won a couple of times, then he fought again and he beat Corey Coupe, but he didn't get into the UFC then, so instead he fought Corin Bowen in PFL. And now he's gotten the call to Bellator. And I think that Crutchmer is going to ruin their Bellator debut, unfortunately for Michael. Crutchmer is the younger guy. He probably does have the higher ceiling at this point in his career. So we'll be going with Crutchmer by a decision, by using some wrestling. And it's out wrestling Michael Lombardo to the 3 rounds. And moving on, we've got a rematch, which I didn't actually notice until now. We've got Gaston Bolaños and Daniel Carey fighting each other in a rematch at 145 pounds. They fought the first time in 2019, where Bolaños lost by guillotine choke as a huge favourite. Daniel Carey pulled off a massive upset in that one. And a very weird thing about Daniel Carey's record here, I think he's stepping in on relatively short notice for this one, because Gaston Bolaños has had 3 cancelled fights before this fight got made with Daniel Carey. So shout out to Daniel Carey, I guess, for jumping in on short notice. But he's also got a fight apparently booked against Alfred Walker in a couple of months, so a month after this one. So he's probably going to have to hope that he doesn't get knocked out, because I'm actually predicting Gaston Bolaños to knock out Daniel Carey. Gaston Bolaños, he is like almost 30 years old, but he does have absolutely insane striking. He probably still has enough time to turn his record around and win a couple of times to get that prospect status, I guess you could say, because he is on a 2-fight losing streak right now, but he does have great striking. He has been in a few professional Muay Thai and professional boxing and kickboxing bouts. Yeah, as you can see, it's it's not even on his Tapology record, but I know he has. Okay, and he's also got a loss to Aaron Pico. Gaston Bolaños has been in kickboxing bouts. Daniel Carey has also been in kickboxing bouts. What am I talking about? I'm getting very off track, but it's okay, because I'm picking Gaston Bolaños as the huge favourite to win again. Daniel Carey, potential dog, like, for the second time. I don't know if he can pull it off for a second time, but I mean, it was pretty insane that he got the win the first time. I'm picking Gaston Bolaños, but I'm going with a KO, man. I think that his striking's too good for Daniel Carey. Daniel Carey, obviously, like, he's been fighting. I didn't even realise that he's been fighting striking himself. But Gaston Bolaños does have a Muay Thai background, and I'm going to be like kind of picking that to come out in this one here, and I'm going to be picking Bolaños by KO. This next one, I believe, is a very short notice fight. We've got Donaldson Yakshimuradov versus Rafael Carvalho. Donaldson was meant to be fighting Tony Johnson, but now Rafael Carvalho has stepped up and he will be fighting Donaldson instead. It's pretty hard to kind of find odds on this one, but you can see on bestfightodds.com, if you want the website, you can find Donaldson Yakshimuradov -160 to Rafael Carvalho doing +140, and that's on 5Dimes, REF, and also on BetMGM at the moment. But moving back to the fights, I think that Donaldson Yakshimuradov versus Carvalho is actually going to be like a striking matchup. In the last 2 fights, Donaldson has been out-wrestled by Carl Albertson and Corey Anderson to a ground and pound loss and also a decision. So I think that this fight is going to be taking place on the feet. Rafael Carvalho unfortunately hasn't really had the greatest run inside the UFC. He was at 15-1 at one point, and now he is 16-6. So he's gone 1-5 in his last 6 fights, and one of those losses, one of those wins actually happens to be over Chidi Njokwani, who's now in the UFC now. So that's actually a pretty well-looking win, I guess you could say. He's a pretty difficult guy to finish, is Rafael Carvalho. So I do think that the fight will probably be going the distance. And I'm gonna be picking Dovletsan Yakshimuradov, but not a lot of confidence in that one. He's coming into this one with a full camp. He is going to be a lot shorter though, 5'11" to 6'3", with a 6-inch reach disadvantage, 72 inches to 78 inches. But I will be picking Dovletsan to get the win here. I think he's probably going to win a decision in a striking match. I think Carvalho is going to be throwing more volume, but Yakshimuradov, he's a much shorter guy, so to land his strike, he's going to have to get in up and close with Carvalho. Maybe we see a clinch game being taking place against the cage as well, potentially. But I'm picking Dovletsan to be landing the more impactful strikes. I think he's going to be throwing a lot more hooks, a lot more overhands, a lot more of those close range strikes. And I feel Carvalho is going to be trying to kind of keep the range and keep the distance, and that's landing less impactful strikes. And Dovletsan is going to be landing with the power, but Rafael is going to be landing with the more volume. So it's going to be a very close fight in my opinion. I think the fight does go the distance, and I'm going Yakshimuradov to win. I think this might be his first win in the Bellator cage. It will be. He has not won in Bellator yet. In fact, he hasn't won for over 2 years. So I'm going to be going with Dovletsan to get his first win inside Bellator over Rafael Carvalho, a short notice opponent in this one here. This next one, man, we've got Tyrell Fortune versus Rakeem Cleveland. Rakeem Cleveland likes to stand and bang, but Tyrell Fortune, as you guys may know, has got an absolutely insane wrestling background, and he really does try to utilize that in the heavyweight division here in Bellator. His last performance was a little bit suspicious, and a lot of people were kind of, well, I don't think a lot of people, but some people were kind of still looking at that performance and kind of wondering if Tyrell Fortune could still be that prospect, that could still be that guy that a lot of people look at against like Steve Murray. He's meant to fight Steve Murray, who's a pretty decent guy, and I think a few people were going to be picking Steve Murray to win that fight, who was a 10-0 prospect in his own right. But now we've got Rakeem Cleveland stepping in short notice. One thing I'm telling you guys is Tyrell Fortune probably won't knock out Rakeem, because Rakeem Cleveland has a chin on him, man. He's only got 1 KO loss in his entire career, and that 1 KO loss actually happens to be a loss to Derek Lewis. Since then, he has never been knocked out. He actually fought Derek Lewis in his debut. I'm assuming that was probably like a decision loss or something like that. But anyway, he's officially like never been knocked out, apart from that one loss to Derek Lewis by knockout. So I'm going to be picking Tyrell Fortune to win a decision. He's won his previous fights by like submission to strikes, against Matt Mitrione, a guy who had a very unfortunate Bellator career, like ground and pound wins, a decision win over Saeed Soma. I think that Rakeem Cleveland's just going to get dominated over the course of 3 rounds by Tyrell Fortune, using his wrestling, taking him down at will, kind of lying on him, landing ground and pounds. In fact, maybe we do see a ground and pound TKO for Tyrell Fortune, but I'm going to be going with Fortune potentially by like a decision win here. Like Rakeem Cleveland's got a chin on him, man. But I mean, maybe that chin won't hold up when you're lying on the ground and getting pounded on from on top. But hey, I'm picking Tyrell Fortune to win, and I'm gonna like be looking at that chin by Rakeem Cleveland. He doesn't really get knocked out very easily, so maybe we do see a ground and pound TKO, but maybe we do see a decision for Tyrell Fortune as well. And moving on, we've got Tim Johnson versus Linton Vassell, and straight up, once again, I'm just gonna say, like, for this fight, I'm not confident. I feel like this is a no-bet fight for me, and I feel like I would feel bad, or I'd feel guilty telling you guys that this is a fight that you can bet on, or you should be betting on. I don't really know, like, what the go with this sort of fight would be. I am going to be picking the favourite Linton Vassell to win, but I really wouldn't be throwing like a large amount of money down on Linton Vassell. I do think though that this fight is going to take place on the feet, and I think Linton Vassell is the better striker, although Tim Johnson has been around, man, and Tim Johnson actually knocked out Tyrell Fortune in the first round. So that was the Tyrell Fortune's first loss. He's also beaten Matt Mitrione, who, as I said, had a very weird career in Bellator, but he's also been in the UFC before as well. He traded wins and losses in the UFC before eventually ending up in Bellator back in 2018, where he lost to Czech Congo, but he did redeem that win in 2020, but he's also fought Fedor Emelianenko as well, and he got knocked out by Fedor as well. I think that was a first round KO loss for Tim Johnson, and I'm going to be picking Linton Vassell to land with the heavier strikes. I think that he's going to be landing with more volume as well on the feet. He did beat Taro Fortune by split decision recently, who Tim Johnson did knock out, but I think Linton Vassell, I think we're going to see the fight take place on the feet, and Linton Vassell has used that range, uses movement that's a bit better than Tim Johnson at this point, even though Linton Vassell is almost 39 years old, Tim Johnson is 37 years old. Like, these are like two older guys in the heavyweight division, two guys which I don't think will be fighting in 5 years time, but I will be picking Vassell to win a decision, but it's pretty hard to kind of like ignore the fact that Tim Johnson is a pretty live underdog as well. Linton Vassell is my pick though, but Tim Johnson could come back as a live dog, you never know. Moving on, we've got a very short notice replacement fight for Aaron Pico versus Adley Edwards. When it was announced, I almost made a video on it, but then, like, you know, my channel wasn't really known for Bellator, so I didn't really think about it. So, here it is. Aaron Pico versus Adley Edwards. Very short notice fight for Adley Edwards. He recently actually fought on, ex-MMA 4, and he went, and he submitted Josh Harvey in the first round, and Josh Harvey actually weighed in at 155 pounds, and Adley Edwards weighed in at 145 pounds or 146 pounds. So that's actually a very good win, I guess you could say, for Adley Edwards, and I did actually expect him to fight on Dana White's Contender Series this year after that win happened, but no, it turns out, you know what, Bellator have given him the call, so now he's getting to fight for Bellator, so good for Adley Edwards, but I just don't think that he's going to win this fight over Aaron Pico. Aaron Pico is actually one of the most insane fighters like I've ever really read about or I've ever really seen. Like, this guy, he has a history in wrestling and boxing at a young age. He qualified for the Olympic trials in 2016 at 19 years of age for freestyle wrestling, which is absolutely crazy. He's also competed in boxing and pancration. He won the National PAL Championship in 2008, was the National Junior Golden Gloves Champion in 2009, and won Most Outstanding Boxer in both tournaments. This guy has an insane boxing record prior to MMA, and an insane wrestling record as well. His only losses were, I think, when Bellator kind of like tested him a little bit too much, where they put him up against Zach Freeman, who was 8-2 in his debut, and then they put him up against a guy that was 16-3, and Adam Borix, who was 12-0 at the time, when he was still very inexperienced, but he's kind of bounced back, and he's kind of proven that he can hang with these good guys. He's been fighting very high level of competition his entire career. All 12 fights have been against very high level competition. You cannot really say the same about Adley Edwards. He is finishing these guys, like he does have a win over an 8-1 guy, the winner of the 5-0 guy as well, but like he is finishing guys that have like losing records or guys that are just inexperienced, so he hasn't been in there with the same level of competition as Aaron Pico, and I believe that this step up in competition on short notice is just way too much. I think Aaron Pico is a future Bellator champion, and I do kind of stand behind that. I think Aaron Pico really is that good if he can get it all together, but Adley Edwards potential live dog if he can get a finish, but I don't think so. I think Aaron Pico's got the wrestling to keep Adley Edwards on the feet if Aaron Pico wants it on the feet, or he's also got the wrestling to take Adley Edwards down to the ground if he wants it on the ground. Aaron Pico, I feel like, is going to dictate where the fight is, if he wants it on the feet or if he wants it on the ground, and I think that Aaron Pico is going to finish the fight inside the distance, most likely by a knockout in my opinion. I'm going to be going with Aaron Pico pretty heavily in this one here. Alright, moving up to the first title fight. It's absolutely insane to me that not many people are really talking about Bellator 277 like that I'm seeing, and we've got two title fights in the card. In fact, one of them is Corey Anderson. I see Corey Anderson talking a lot, and Corey Anderson seems very, very confident to win this fight, man. And you know what, like, I'm gonna back the underdog. To be honest, this is gonna spoil my pick for the main event, but this is my only underdog on the card. I've got to pick an underdog, and why not picking Corey Anderson? He's just so confident to win the fight, and I really kind of feel like I want to back that confidence. He's got a height and a reach advantage. I think he's also gonna have the wrestling advantage over Vadim Nemkov as well, and I think that we're probably going to see a pretty close decision win for Anderson. But Anderson, man, he sounds like he's like going to be trying to take Vadim Nemkov's head off, which is pretty crazy. I did kind of watch a few of Vadim Nemkov's fights, and a lot of people have been talking about how Nemkov could beat the top guys in the UFC, and you know what, like, the UFC light heavyweight division and the UFC heavyweight division are so like thin right now, I guess you could say, that, you know what, Nemkov probably would slot right into the top 10 of the UFC's light heavyweight division. I'm not gonna lie to you, but the thing is, like, he has been fighting good guys. He also knocked out Ryan Bader. Corey Anderson also knocked out Ryan Bader, but he did beat Melvin Manhoef by TKO in that first his first Bellator fight, and then he beat Donaldson by ground and pound, and then he also knocked out Ryan Bader. He's on a 3-fight KO streak. Hopefully he's patient enough against Vadim, where I think that Corey Anderson's going to be patient on the feet, and he's going to pick his shots, and he's going to land with power. But I also think that he's also going to make Vadim think that he's going to be striking with him, and then he's going to start to utilize the wrestling, and then he's going to start to take the fight to the ground. And I think with the ground control, or taking the fight to the ground, that he's going to really start to look good on the judges' scorecards. I don't think we see a KO on this one here. I think that we're probably going to see either Anderson or Nemkov win a decision, and I'm going to be going with Anderson. I think he's going to out-wrestle Nemkov for most of the fight. I think we're going to see like a 3 rounds to 2 or a 4 rounds to 1, like a very close sort of decision win for Anderson in this one here. Or he could knock him out. Maybe he could get the KO, but I'm still going with Anderson. He just sounds so confident. I love the confidence, and especially going up against a guy like Nemkov. Hopefully he doesn't overlook him, but I do think that Anderson settled pretty well into Bellator right now, and we could see him get a win in this one here and become the new Bellator champion as well. And then when he does, he's probably going to talk a lot of smack about the UFC champions, which is going to suck a bit, but you know what, like it's cool, I guess, in a way. But I do think that if Corey Anderson did come back to the UFC, I don't think he would find as much success as what he thinks he would. Alright, and to finish off the card, AJ McKee Jr. versus Patricio Pitbull. As you guys know, I am a bit of a casual when it comes to Bellator, but I did definitely know who Patricio Pitbull was prior to their last fight. Patricio Pitbull has built his name inside Bellator. He's been fighting since 2010 for them when he made his debut at 12-0, and since then he won a lot of fights, obviously, and became probably Bellator's greatest champion ever. He's knocked out Michael Chandler in the first round. He's beaten great guys like Juan Anchileta in 2019 and defended his belt multiple times until he ran into AJ McKee Jr., who is potentially the greatest prospect in Bellator history. AJ McKee Jr. made his debut in Bellator, and he's built all 18 fights and all 18 wins inside the Bellator cage, which is pretty crazy. And also his dad is his coach. I believe his dad is his main coach. AJ McKee Jr. a decent size advantage over Patricio Pitbull in this one here. He's got like a 4-inch height advantage. He's also got like an 8-inch reach advantage, and he has proven that he's got good enough striking to be able to utilize that height and reach advantage. He's got great jiu-jitsu as well, which is very well rounded. He's a kind of a guy that has built himself, or built his entire career around being a mixed martial artist, and he's got a lot of finishes on his record. I think 13 of those wins are by finishes, 5 of them are by decision, and a lot of them, most notably, he submitted Patricio Pitbull in the first round, and the last one submitted Darian Caldwell, submitted Derek Campos, knocked out Georgi Karyakanian, and went to decision with Pat Curran about 3 years ago. So he's only been the distance once in about 3 years, which is pretty crazy in all of those wins. And I'm going to be going with AJ McKee Pitbull, and I've just been talking about, AJ McKee, I've been talking about AJ McKee up a lot, but I feel like this is a passing of the torch moment for, unfortunately for Patricio Pitbull. I feel like AJ McKee Jr. is about to become the new face of Bellator. He's going to become the new face of the Bellator 145-pound division. He might even move up a weight class at one point in his career and fight at 155 for Bellator. But as the moment, AJ McKee talking a lot of smack about UFC guys. It seems like he might be eyeing a move to the UFC, but I know Dana White and AJ McKee and Dana White and AJ McKee's dad don't necessarily get along, so maybe we're going to have to wait a couple of years for that relationship to kind of cool down a little bit before we get to see AJ McKee in the UFC. But man, I feel like we're going to see a late finish in this one for McKee, like 3rd or 4th round finish over Pitbull here. I think Pitbull's going to put on a good performance. He's going to land with power, but I don't think he's going to land with enough power to put out AJ McKee. I feel like AJ McKee's going to outstrike him from range, maybe even get a takedown here and there if he really wants to. And we're going to see like a very exciting fight, but a fight where AJ McKee looks good in, and I think he's going to get a late finish here on this fight here. Potential decision win as well, but I think McKee Jr. is probably a fair pick to be made. Minus 300 though is very disrespectful to Patricio Pitbull. Maybe he's the live dog. If you've got $10 in your pocket and you're not scared to lose the $10, I would say probably put it on Pitbull here. You're going to get a much better return if he wins, is what I'm kind of saying. I feel like it's you could put AJ McKee in, but I don't think he's worth minus 300 or whatever he is sitting at right now. And I'm going to be picking AJ McKee to win the fight. But let's have a look, man. Let's just double check these odds before I kind of sell you guys on the fight, I guess you could say. So Yeah, while we're waiting for my super slow computer to live, yeah, okay, yeah, what I'm saying is pretty true. AJ McKee minus 350, minus 455 at PointsBet. If you've got PointsBet, you can get Patricio Fury at plus 300. If you've got $10 in that pocket and you not too scared to lose the $10, throw it down at plus 300 in my opinion. You could be looking at a relatively good return, I guess. I'm picking AJ McKee Jr. to win the fight, and I think he's going to get the job done by late finish or a decision, and it's going to take place from the feet, and he's going to be able to utilize that height and reach advantage to good use and get the win over Pitbull here, who I think is unfortunately going to be slowing down now that he's almost 35 years old. So that's my pick there.